So we're gonna go ahead and we'll start off with our interview here. I'm going to interview Megan Riley first, and then after that we'll interview Michelle Murdock. So at any time when you guys do have questions, please feel free to type in the chat box. Okay, so Megan, first of all, tell us where you're calling in from.
I'm calling in from Brooklyn, New York, but I'm originally from Southern California, from Orange County, Fullerton, and
Hmm.
lived in the Bay Area 12 years as well. So, yeah,
Wow.
Brooklyn, 10 years.
Oh my goodness. And we see that you have so much beautiful jewelry behind you, and obviously you're a jewelry maker. Can you tell us a little bit more about your business and what you do?
Sure. I fabricate contemporary art jewelry for museum stores and for retail pop-ups throughout the country. So we do a lot of um, fabrication in the studio, design, and then we do a lot of business also. We're kind of contacting and marketing to different museums and galleries around the country, if not the world, to get them to carry our work. And then I'm also working on direct to consumer with our e-commerce. So we're doing a lot of website, which means cultivating our audience through retail. And so that's been a really big pivot that's happened during COVID. Before that, we did a lot of retail pop-ups. So we had retail pop-ups at Grand Central Terminal, California, different places around the country, and would do different trunk shows, different museums. So it would show up in person a lot. But because of not being able to do that, we've been doing a lot of virtual and then working on our website. So that's become a whole big focus, and a lot of we're doing a lot in the studio day to day.
Wow, that's amazing. So, do you have a huge team working with you, or are you like a one-woman show?
Well, I started out like basically making this like on my coffee table. I was doing consulting. I was an economist, and I kind of did this for fun, and I really loved making jewelry my whole life. But then one of the museum stores saw what I was doing, San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, and so I developed collections for them, and then slowly built my clientele over the last 10 years, and learned more about business, and started doing more wholesale. And then from there, I slowly grew my team with me as well, as I started having more demand and more orders coming in. So that happened probably within 3 to 5 years. Started slowly hiring people, and everything was an
Mhm.
organic process. So now I have a team of about 3 people that work with me and fabricate.
Mhm.
Currently we had different stations in here, but right now because of COVID we're doing more people work at home. So there's a lot of communication about everybody does a little part. So
Mhm.
it's a really collaborative. It is just me.
That's
I
mhm.
need other people. Um,
Mhm. So you have a whole team of people that you work with now, like over the years.
yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your childhood? Did you always know that you wanted to be a jewelry designer, or what were some of? You said this all started as designing jewelry on your coffee table, but as a teenager, did you know that that you were going to be a business owner,
No,
designing
not at all.
jewelry?
Totally
What was one of your
not at
first things
all.
that you wanted to do?
Um, I'll like be a judge or be a lawyer was really attractive to me at some point. And I did a lot of internships where I worked in attorneys' offices and did legal aid defense, social justice work, advocacy, housing work. I worked at shelters. I have an economics degree. Really, that's what I'm trained in. So this was not intentional at all. I always loved making things. Oh, and I still do. I always loved designing, and then it just became more of a profession, and I had to really cultivate not only my design side, my fabrication, my craftsmanship, but also my business side, which meant having to take classes in all of that over the last 10 years constantly, which is keeps you on your toes and keeps you moving. Uh, and I feel like it was really interesting to learn all this, and but still like realize you never have to stop learning.
That's good to know. You said that you took a lot of classes and your focus was on is it economics. Am I saying it right? So, what kind of classes for? So, let's say there's a teenager, she wants to start her own business and go off to college. What are some courses that you can recommend, a or specialized degree that you think she should focus on?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's really for in terms of business directly, I think it's really important to have good language skills. So just English is right, and also know math. Really, really basic are really important, and I still use those every single day. Uh, I think having really good just foundational skills, no matter what you're doing, is really important in critical thinking and the ability to learn. So whatever degree you do, you apply that to whatever profession you want to do. So I know a lot of people that come to this degree in different ways, like biology, chemistry, psychology, but they had a willingness to learn, and so they were able to pivot. And I think a lot of taking it in particular business classes, it might be worthwhile to connect with the local nonprofit or community like development corporation that's offering, or nonprofits. There's a lot of them are offering like small business, like 10-week courses. Doing something like that is really helpful to start writing business plans and thinking in that framework.
It's good to know. And I just like to mention that our library, as well as LA County Public Library, they do offer courses on how to start your own small business
Oh yeah,
and how to, yeah, which is
I knew
great.
it. I didn't know.
Yeah, no, this is just for everybody to know, like, so that way they could do some homework. So when they get started on their business, they know all the steps on what to do when starting a small business. So I wanted to ask you, so with jewelry, how do you keep your creativity flowing? What inspires you?
Constantly making things is really fun, but also talking to people. So doing retail is really important because it helps me listen to my customer and understand what they're looking for that I can provide. And so that means, like, is it a bigger design? Is it a specialty piece? Is it a certain material? Should it be engineered to be worn with different outfits, different lightweight, gold, silver, hyperallergenic? Like, those are questions that I think are really, I gain from talking to my customer. It helps me with my design process and keeps me sharp. So I still do that in a lot of ways and solicit information by asking for virtual appointments with people, or see people for retail pop-ups, or doing surveys, and then making things and putting it out in the world and getting feedback that way. So I've been doing a lot of that, and I continue to do that. I think also drawing a lot, for just like another foundational skill. Actually, I think it's really important if you are interested in arts in particular, is to draw every day, no matter what. It's just like writing and doing math. So I brought actually my sketchbook. So I
Ooh,
use,
yes.
yeah, I mean, the fun stuff for me. I have a lot of sketchbooks. So I do this every day. Like, this is just a sketch from having a virtual appointment with one of my customers, and then like little like designs and thinking out patterns, doing more just quick sketches, thoughts, like how things are going to work on the body. This is important to work out design problems over and over again, and that can best be done in paper, and it wastes less material, which is more cost effective as a designer.
Okay.
So I think of this as like a foundational skill, just like writing. And I end up writing a lot in here too, so it becomes kind of a journal in a way too. So this is like a nice way to work out things.
Hmm. It's wonderful. I notice you have a lot of jewelry in the back. Would you mind showing us a few of your favorite pieces?
Sure, I just made this one. This one, what I'm wearing, it's done with a magnet class. So I engineer everything to be really lightweight and comfortable. So it's kind of based on architectural principles, like how suspension bridges are engineered. So I use little mini steel cables with bits of gold in between, and they are crushable, just like how suspension bridges can weather like different earthquakes and shifts in the
Wow.
earth. So this is also easy to put on because it's a huge magnet. And I use little quartz crystals to finish it, so you have a little place to pull. But just one of those pieces that has a lot of impact but feels feather light. Then I also just been doing, okay, so I've been playing with a lot of materials as a design process. So I've been doing things with zip ties recently.
Wow, is
So
that a
there's
headband?
zip ties that it's a headband. You can also wear it as
Oh, wow.
choker. So this like made me think in another way because I had to use different material and made it push me. But I made it like double-sided so you can wear it different ways. So thinking about sketching in different materials is also sometimes important for me. And those are some of my most favorite things currently. I have a lot over here.
Wow. How long does it take for you to finish a piece of jewelry or like the headband or the necklace that you were just showing us?
Super variable. Some of them take me like 6 months to figure out, like all the process. They get really complicated, and it's not an instantaneous process. So this has like pearls embedded in it. This took me like 6 months to draw and figure out and then finally fabricate. And each little piece of gold is hand placed, so that takes time.
Wow. How
So
much
I
would a
just
piece like that cost?
like around 650. So this is more,
Oh, okay.
yeah. We do a couple like this. That's why we have multiple ranges, and then do
Mhm.
um a more commercial line for museum
Mhm.
stores and kind of
Mhm.
pared down and more simplified. Uh, but it still holds all of those principles where I make sure it's lightweight, sterling silver, crushable, magnet class. So everything has true to our design language and our
Mhm.
ethos.
That's wonderful. So I wanted to ask you if you were talking about like a foundation to always like draw and to practice drawing and to practice working on your art every day. But if somebody wanted to get started on this small business or starting their own business and they don't know where to begin, like what are some tips and advice that you can give them, like how would they build on so that way they can put their business out there and start selling?
I think it would be a good idea to make a small collection and think about it. Don't overwhelm yourself. If you're really going to doesn't matter if it's jewelry, it could also be fashion, it could be scrunchies, it could be slime, any product based business. I would think about designing a small collection, like 10 pieces, and then think about the marketing. How would you sell it? Would you have a name for it? How would your product pictures look? How would your Instagram pictures look? Would you have a little campaign? How would you roll out the website? Like do a miniature 10 product piece collection and then do the cost, how much all of that would cost. That means making the pieces, taking the photographs, getting the props to do the photographs. Opening a website sometimes costs money. You have to research what you want it, just putting it all together and then thinking about that. And I always say, if you really love it, do it, and you'll figure out how to sell it because you love it so much and you're so passionate about it. But don't overwhelm yourself. Don't do 100 pieces and do $1 million. Do a little bit. Be really true to yourself. Make some really good things and make a bunch of bad things first. Wait, I missed a bunch of questions. I'm sorry.
No, no, that's great. You're doing great. It's wonderful. You're on the right track. So I think that's great. That's good for everybody to know, especially like our teens that if they want to sell slime or sell their art or
Totally
something.
sellable. If you do it right, you make just think about like how you're going to differentiate yourself, make really cool slime, make it different, make some
Hmm.
cute packaging. I don't know, you can do it. I didn't have a lot of money when I did this. I just put it together. And it was really weird at first, but people believed in me and then I started growing.
That's wonderful. What are some of the biggest challenges of being a small business owner, and what are some of the rewards?
Um It's challenging right now because of COVID and just this super weird time. It's always challenging because everything is your responsibility, no matter if you have employees or not. It's just you. A lot, most of small businesses are just sole proprietor, just one person. That's all your responsibility. Uh, some of the rewards are it is all your responsibility. You super love it and you're super passionate about it and you have enjoyment from that. So uh, I think you have to really enjoy what you love to be able to do this because the day to day is a lot of work.
It's wonderful. And how long have you been doing this? How long have you been in this business?
This business, 10 years. And before,
And
I ran two other businesses before this.
what did you do before?
I did like real estate development consulting for nonprofits. So I did like more process and functions and data.
Okay, that's cool.
Bit different, very analytical.
Mhm.
But I was always making, I don't know, just always making jewelry on the side and
Mhm.
taking classes and learning. Honestly, like, needed to keep learning, even though I was working for myself. And having the side hustle really afforded me the time to do it. So that was great.
Mhm.
I think having uh, multiple jobs is great.
That's awesome. Where did you take your classes at, or while you were working and learning the business?
Oh yeah, I took them at community colleges and different art centers, mostly in the Bay Area. So I don't know any LA based, but I know that they exist. But I think
Mhm.
a lot of things are going virtual as well. It's going to be harder without specialized equipment. But
Mhm.
if you want to learn business and marketing and maybe design, just those fundamental things you can learn right now virtually, like the basics.
Mhm. What are do you have any marketing tips, or how do you make your
Um,
business thrive off of how do you market your jewelry to people?
I think I communicate a lot. I think it's like if that's going to be like on Instagram, through email marketing, on social media, like doing IG lives, doing YouTube, reaching out to people, doing virtual FaceTime appointments, connecting with my friends. It's all, it's just, we still need to connect with people.
Okay, thank you for that. And then I know we're running out of time. I wanted to ask you, let me see here. If you could turn back time to, let's say, your 18-year-old self, what is something you wish you could tell yourself?
Um, ooh, I don't know. Take more art classes. Why not? Right?
Yeah,
I was taking some, but I could have taken more.
you wish you would have taken more art classes when you were
Yeah,
younger?
and like invested in more fun equipment and like done more ceramics.
That's cool. I think that's really, really cool.
I don't know, different.
Yeah. And if you could have another job, what would it be?
Ooh, I've had another job. I don't know what I would do for another job. Probably something with more math, because I like math and I still like doing math in like spreadsheets.
Hmm.
So if I could do something related to that, or I would I would be into that. Or
Okay.
statistics.
Well,
Have
thank
fun.
you for sharing that. And I just want everybody to know, if you have any questions, please do type in the chat. Oh, I have a question here from
Yeah, I missed a bunch.
Jessica.
Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, she Jessica asked, I know you already mentioned this, but when you started out, how did you determine the pricing for your
Oh,
materials?
definitely read a bunch of articles about pricing within your industry because there's different standards. So I read a lot of articles and kind of also did common sense, like I thought about my materials and how much I was using. I thought I like timed myself while I was making things. I thought about other people making them, how much I'd pay them, and then calculated my time based on that. I thought about overhead, like how much it costs to keep the lights on, included that over a month and like per day basis over a month, thought just kind of build out like how much it would cost to run my business just to keep the lights on, plus then cost per item and time per item. So just like some good basic things to be aware of. Weirdly, timing yourself is really like a really good practice actually for productivity in general, not even for making things, but for writing emails. I have to give myself like a time limit. Like I'm going to do this for 30 minutes and not overwhelm myself, get like anxious about doing it for 8 hours.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you, Megan, for sharing all of your tips and tricks, and for sharing your knowledge and experience with us. So we'll go ahead. I'm going to pass it on to Jessica so we can interview Miss Michelle. And then at any time anybody has questions, please feel free to type it in the chat box. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you, Lynn. So I'm excited to introduce our next guest, Michelle Murdock. She comes to us today from Milwaukee, Oregon, which is just outside Portland. And she is the owner and founder of Quail Lane Press, which is a letterpress company. Before we get started, I'm going to ask a popcorn question. What is a letterpress? Does anybody know? Type in your thoughts. No, but a type of printer that's for letters. Michelle, can you see these?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Printing cards on a canvas. So is it in the name? So Michelle, what do you think?
Those were pretty good. Yeah, I mean, it's a printing press, and originally the reason they're called letterpresses is because you actually would set letters into the bed of the press to use to, say, make a newspaper or a book. And now they're not only used that way, where you typeset, which is setting either wood or metal letters into the bed of the press and creating an image, but they're also used to create artwork.
Thank you for that excellent explanation. So tell us more about your work with the letterpress. What is your role? What do you do?
Well, so I started out as an illustrator, like I said earlier, doing some graphic novels and cartooning, and I figured out that I really loved illustration, but I wanted to be able to like recreate my drawings and like reproduce them by myself. And I had taken some printmaking classes in college, and so I really liked the process. And I did some research and figured out that I needed to get my own press. That was like the first thing I needed to do. So I ended up buying a very small tabletop press, and this is about 10 years ago, and Etsy had just it had been around for just 2 or 3 years, and so I just started making little prints and little cards on this small press, and then taking a photo of them and putting them on Etsy, and then a couple weeks later I got a sale, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this worked. So I decided, all right, well, I guess I'll just keep doing that. And eventually I got a bigger press, and now I have 2 presses and a paper cutter, and all these machines are really big and heavy, and so you do kind of have to have space for them, which was, a process of getting, first getting the press and then finding a space. And so.
And just to clarify for everybody watching right now, it looks like you're in your letterpress studio. Is that the case?
Yeah, do you guys want to maybe see the presses? Should I walk over there? They're back there.
Yeah, we can only hear you if you're close to your device, but that would be awesome if you...
Okay.
It's beautiful, oh my gosh.
Yeah, so this is one of them. Let's see. There you go. And here's the other one.
Wow.
And this is a paper cutter,
Wow.
which is like 100 years old.
How many years old?
About 100.
100. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me okay, but
We can,
yeah, so there they were.
And so you're primarily the illustrator, and I know you run this business with your husband. So what do you, on a day-to-day basis, what does your day look like? And just to add, so everyone else knows, this is on your home property, so you're pretty close. You don't have a long commute, essentially.
Oh. Yeah, no, it's so this building is right behind our house. So my husband actually has another job too, and he just kind of helps me with all the like press maintenance and I don't know, mainly that. Yeah, just like when anything goes wrong with the machines, I'm like, fix it. So yeah.
And so when you start your day, what does your day look like? How do you structure things?
Well, I usually end up working on a new, like if I have a new map or a new card, some kind of design project. I like to do that kind of first thing because I'm fresh. I'm a morning person, and so I'll do a couple hours of that kind of work, and then I usually end up doing fulfillment of orders for a good portion of the day, or correspondence. Like Megan said, you kind of have to do a bunch of things as a small business owner. So, there's a lot of juggling going on. And so yeah, it's my favorite part of it is doing the design. And I mean, I enjoy also like printing, but I think that and shipping things out is okay, but it's more of the grunt work that you're doing when you have to just do fulfillment. But that's part of owning a small business is doing all those things.
Right. And what drives, I don't know if anyone has had a chance to look at Michelle's artwork. It's the visuals very beautiful and seem very inspired by the Pacific Northwest. But where I'm assuming the nature provides a lot of inspiration for you. But do you want to talk more about that, where you've gotten your inspiration for your work?
Yeah. So I studied environmental science, and I was always kind of taking art classes while I actually have a master's in that, and but kind of like sneaking away and taking art classes. And so I think that I've always kind of really appreciated the environment, and I'm a big nature lover, and I think even though I'm not necessarily doing environmental science like I was intending to when I was in college, it ended up fitting into what I'm doing now, which is that I just find the landscape of the world really just so fascinating and like an endless source of inspiration. Mountains and forests and animals, and I love them. I love them all.
So I want to go back, I guess. Let me jump back to your youth. You are still young, but to your 18-year-old self, when you were in high school, what did you envision doing with your future?
I didn't really have a clear vision. I think that my grandmother was a really big inspiration for me too, or a role model, and she was an artist, and so I kind of always doodled in my, when I was taking notes in any class, but I had a kind of a meandering path. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do.
We love meandering paths, yes.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
So anyway, I think, I feel like it would have been nice maybe if I'd known, but on the other hand, I really loved all the different experiences I've had, leading up to this.
And when you went into college, you went to Columbia for undergrad. What did you major in there? And at that point, were there any other kind of jobs you had that gave you a taste for what you may or may not want to do in the future?
Yeah, so I majored in anthropology, and I ended up getting to travel to a couple of different countries, kind of doing internships, the Bahamas, and then, well, as you know, I went to Italy as well. But I don't know, I guess traveling just, it always, I feel like, opens your mind a little bit and makes you think about things differently. And so I recommend doing that. I think it kind of helps you in your quest to figure things out, or at least it helped me.
Mm-hmm. And so then you went back to school. Did you work for a while before returning to school?
Yeah, so I actually, through college, I always waited tables just because I was kind of on scholarship, and so, and I had a lot of loans, and so I was kind of always trying to, hustle a little bit. And so I did that, and then I did that in between undergrad and graduate school. And and then, even after graduate school, when I was like unsure what I should do, it was always like a job where I could kind of make my art and then, go pick up a few shifts waiting tables.
Mm-hmm. So once you started the business, as you said, you began on Etsy and kind of had some surprising success. How did you grow the business from there?
Well, I'd say that, I had a lot of different prints that I started out with. Like, I tried a bunch of different designs, and, I kind of would see which ones sold and then just make more of that. So, for instance, I made a map of Lake Tahoe, which was where I was living at the time, and I found I was selling a lot of those. So I was like, maybe I should try making more maps and less of, that other print that nobody's buying, so, and then I just sort of went with that whatever was selling, I'd make more of that. So.
Right. So you follow your passion, and then you do, obviously, running a business, you have to pay attention to what is selling. And then I think someone asked a question for Megan that would apply to you too, but it would be interesting to talk a little bit more about how do you do, or assuming you did, probably are still doing, publicity and marketing for your work. That's a crucial component to any business. And so what has been successful for you?
Well, I use Instagram. I probably could do it more because I really do think that it's a really direct way to, engage with people, and it's fun to take pictures, I think. And so I think, I can see direct results from if I, take a really nice photo of my products, or even a really nice photo of just, a hike I went on. That I would, get sales like a few days later or that day. So it's pretty direct, and it is, for the most part. I mean, you can pay for advertising through it, but I don't. So, and I still am able to reach a lot of people with just hashtags. So, I found that as a great way.
That's amazing. I know you have young children. That must be a lot to manage your own business. You're responsible for everything and the family. So I would imagine that's a challenge, but are there other challenges that you encounter with your work?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one thing about selling, I sell predominantly online, and, Etsy's been a really pretty stable avenue, but there's been, over the years, other, online platforms that I've sold through, and they seem to be like going great one year, and then the next year they're just, they've gone bust, and you can't really predict it, and so it's kind of the Wild West on the internet, there's and you also kind of have to be always looking for the next thing that might be the place to you know, sell your products. So I think that can be challenging. You always have to be kind of grinding and like hungry for like the next thing, and you can't really stop and say, oh, I made it, and now I can just, you know, I'll be fine. So
Right. And for you, what are the biggest rewards to your job?
Well, I feel like I'm doing what I love, and I mean, I think that it doesn't feel like I'm working, which I think is awesome.
That's amazing.
Like I never look at the clock. I'm just like, I feel like I can just do this all the time, and it never feels like work. So, and being my own boss is great.
Wow. So amidst all the stresses in the day-to-day, another question that I wanted to ask is, what do you do to take care of yourself? You live in a seemingly beautiful you have a beautiful outdoors, but what kind of activities do you like to engage in to just relax?
Yeah, I really love to run and to hike, and I find when I do those things too, I'm like thinking about different new products, or, you know, new ways to like promote the product. So it's a way of like getting exercise and kind of relaxing, but also just like working through some ideas.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And yeah, is there anything else? Any words of encouragement or inspiration that you want to give our audience members out there for starting a small business?
I would just say that if you feel really passionate about something, like there's that expression, nothing ventured, nothing gained. I think, you know, you gotta try it. And, you know, you can, like, it's okay to fail too. Like, as I have to say, I've tried other things too that didn't work out. Like at one point I was like, I'm gonna be a documentary filmmaker. And then I realized this is not for me, for me necessarily. It's a lot. And so, you know, it's not like this was like just, I did this and I succeeded. You know, I think you gotta try different things and figure out what you really, really love and go from there.
Thank you. That's great. So I see a few questions, and I also wanted to ask, but no pressure, if you had anything you thought, I don't know if you have any prints or anything to show us in your studio now. I'm sure our audience here would love to see it. If not, it's totally fine. But I was going to look through, no pressure if you don't.
Yeah, no, I actually brought over some cards here.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, this is a little card that I don't know if you can see this that well.
Yes.
That I just finished. It's of the ocean, and I love birds, so I kind of got that one. And then let's see here. Here's one of our beloved Mount Hood, which
oh my gosh.
Just towering over Portland.
And so what is, Michelle, are
yeah.
those cards, how do you make a card like that and do the colors? What is the process? How long does it take to make one card?
First you do like an illustration, and then I scan it into the computer, and with Photoshop, I kind of separate the two colors, and then I create a plate, a release plate, that then I use on the press. And each color, basically, you have to send the paper through the press and print each color one at a time. So when you see like a letterpress card, or also the same is true for like silk screen art and cards, each color it has to be sent through the press. So it's really quite a laborious process. And so yeah, sometimes people don't quite understand how much goes into creating something with multiple colors.
Right. And another thing I noticed on your website, you give mention to the fact that you seek out environmentally sustainable inks and practices. I don't know if do you want to speak to that at all?
Yeah. I actually, it's really important to me that, you know, not just for my own health, but just like I have children that, you know, are in my shop too. So it's like really important that the inks I use and the cleaners I use have low VOCs, which are, you know, hazardous for your health. And I mean, and just for the environment overall. And then also with my packaging, I've gotten it down to almost no plastic, but I still have just one, I ship my prints in a plastic sleeve just to protect them from water damage. And it's been hard to find anything else that, you know, can replace that. So if anyone has that idea out there, you know,
Send your ideas in.
I think a lot of other artists too would love to be able to not use plastic in anything.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing those images. So I guess let's see, looking through the questions. Lynn, let me know if you saw any that were specific to this.
Yeah,
Otherwise, we can ask you both questions. Oh, no, that's okay. They liked your workspace and the cards. Did you have any other cards you wanted to show? I think I may have cut you off.
Let's see, what else do I have here? This is a pretty popular one here. It's a forest card here.
Oh, so pretty. I want to get out of LA now.
Yeah, it's really pretty.
Let's see, someone just asked, so it's for both of you, do museum curators seek out your work? Or maybe this is more to Megan, but either of you can answer. Do museums curators seek out your work for the shops, or do you send them samples?
For me.
I guess, I mean, it could be, I know you've spoken about museums, yeah.
Yeah, because I do wholesale directly to museum stores. So I do wholesale shows through basically in New York, or I used to do them, but I also would research stores I think would be good and look at their jewelry in particular and price point, and then figure out who the shop owner or the buyer was, and then find and email them to kind of like an intro to see if they would be willing to take a phone call or a pick box or learn more about the line. Yeah, a bit of both. It's like an active process of marketing.
And I guess to follow up on that, Lauren asked about, Megan, that you sell through museums, but do you sell your products wholesale to other shops? Yes, is the answer. Yeah. Do you do custom projects?
A lot.
So how much of your work is, do you have a percentage of like how much of that is the regular wholesale orders and then custom?
It's all changing so fast. How's that? In a lot of my online sales, it's not like people just buy it. They need to chat and have a custom or like talk a couple times before, so it turns almost into a custom order. Nothing's like click and ship. Like nothing works that. I don't know. They need more hand holding. It's kind of like a luxury customer in that respect. So different, interesting. Have to do more phone calls or videos of the pieces, change the colors, change the length. Yeah, there's a lot. It's the new world.
It's a new world. I see some questions. They look like they may apply more to you, Michelle. Is a card textured, and do you have to apply pressure to make the card? Which I think that involves the press.
Yeah. Actually, the press itself had such a weight that it embosses the paper, and so yeah, there is a textural feel to it because of the process. In fact, in Letterpress, they say like you can kind of vary how deep you want the emboss to be, and they either call it like a kiss, so if it's just like slightly textured, or they call it bite if it's like really a deep texture.
Thank you. And so Ada asks, can you tell us more about your trademark process?
Oh yeah, I ended up I found a pro bono lawyer, and I just felt like it was important to get, my business name trademarked, just because, the idea of maybe somebody else trademarking the name and then me having to dispute it or something like that. I just felt like it was worth it. It is, you know, some money, and so I didn't end up doing that until maybe I was 5 years into the, you know, business, because at that point I could afford to do it. So it can be kind of tricky when you're first getting started, but I do think it's a good thing to do.
Thank you. Kayla asked, what kinds of illustration have you done in the past? I'm not sure, Kayla, if you're here and you want to speak and ask your question more specifically, do you mean before Michelle started her business?
Well, I'll just say that I started out doing, I loved, I don't know if anyone out there is familiar with Ron and Quarterly, which is it's a publishing company that does kind of new wave graphic novels. And so I was sort of illustrating my life in New York at the time, and where I worked at a restaurant with kind of a crazy boss. And so I sort of get out my, you know, stress by illustrating him in these graphic novels. And so, and then I think my first job was doing botanical illustration, which was awesome, just drawing different grasses for a professor at UC Irvine. And, you know, I could pick up different gigs doing custom work, or just, I draw stuff on my own landscapes, animals, always nature inspired.
With your graphic novels, I know this was from a long time ago. Did you ever, I don't know if this was this during blogging times? Did you ever publish it anywhere?
I'll tell you, okay, so I forget the name of this publishing house. It's a famous one in Seattle. And I was visiting a friend there, and I had my book of my illustrations, and I was gonna go in there. And I got like to the front door, and I couldn't go in. So because I just felt like I couldn't. And so like another example of just like maybe a little bit of a failure there, but like, you know,
you weren't ready.
Go through that, I think.
Yeah.
So,
it was all part of the journey though.
Yeah.
And have you saved those graphic novels?
I have, yeah. I looked at them not too long ago. Yeah, it takes me back.
Someone asked an interesting question. Has anyone, I guess to either of you, has anyone ever stolen or your artwork or ideas? I've heard of small companies finding their artwork on Urban Outfitters products or things like that. Has that been an issue for either of you?
I actually have experienced some of that. Also, when I first started out, I was doing more like word art. So, you know, posters with slogans on them. And this actually loops back to the trademark issue. And I had this poster that had this phrase on it, and a t-shirt maker ended up trademarking the phrase and then contacted me and said, well, now you can't make your poster anymore. And so I was, you know, surprised by that. And, you know, I'd been making it a long time. So it kind of came, you know, out of left field. But
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And Megan, has that issue ever come up?
I actually worked with Free People for a while and like sold with them, and they who are notorious for this, and Urban Outfitters, and they told me the design was too complicated, so they tried. I feel like they tried, but and it happens with a lot of work. I think it's just having to keep fresh and innovating. That's why I got to keep ahead of that. You can't litigate every single person. It's expensive. You know, it's a fine line. If it's like a direct copy, you can do a cease and desist letter. I've had a lot of, it happens a lot. It just happened like yesterday to one of my assistants, actually. She had like a whole Instagram kerfuffle with another Instagram. It happens
It's a weird world. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Rania has a question here. Was this a hobby before you developed it into a business? So this is good for both. I know, Megan, you were saying that you love making jewelry. How about for you, Michelle? You said you love doing artwork and drawing.
I was like constantly doodling and drawing, you know, just always drawing. And so, yeah, it was definitely a hobby first.
And Michelle, I wanted to share with everyone. I'm going to put a link to it, but she has made this beautiful print. You studied birds for a time, didn't you?
Yeah.
Was that in the Bahamas?
I did do some bird surveys down there, and I also did bird banding here in Oregon, and wrote my thesis on a sparrow in Connecticut, and yeah, I'm definitely in the birds.
So Michelle has a beautiful print, which I just put a link to in the chat. It's 100 illustrated birds, and will there be more?
So cool.
You don't know. How long did it take you to illustrate?
I have to say now, with the kids being off of school, it's making things a lot trickier to get the time in too. Yeah. So
how long did that take you to illustrate?
Oh, that was probably like 2 months. I tried to do, you know, a few little illustrations every night.
Wow.
That took a while.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And are there any other questions?
I think we're heading towards the end here, but if anybody has any last minute questions or pressing questions that you'd like to ask, please feel free to type in the chat box now. Again, I'd like to mention that Michelle's website is quaillanepress.com, and then for Megan, it's Megan Patrice. How do I say it? Megan Patrice Riley.com. So please do check out both websites when you get a chance, and if you see something you like, you know, you can always purchase it. All right, and then let's take a look here. Oh, how do you shape? Sophia asked, how do you shape the plate before you press? That's a really good question.
Oh, it's a pretty complicated process. It's a photopolymer plate, and there's like a machine that actually does it. It like takes your digital file and kind of like wears down the plate to like just the lines that are supposed to be exposed. I hope that made sense.
I hope that answers your question, Sophia. And then Kathy asked, how many cards come in a package? I noticed on the website you sell $5 for one card, or is it for a set of cards?
Yeah, so I sell them individually for $5, and then I have a 5-pack or a 10-pack. Those are all on my website. I don't remember the prices, but.
That's good to know. I hope that answers your question, Kathy. And then, Zatali asked a really great question here. How do you get over the fear that no one will buy your items or materials? This question is for both Michelle and Megan.
Oh, I guess I'll go. I feel like you just put yourself out there and try, and then listen and adapt and make new things from what you hear. There's always room for improvement. I feel like it's, if you don't put yourself out there, you'll never know.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's okay if like you're the only one that likes something you made, but then you can have that you can have artwork that you make for yourself, and then you can have artwork that you're trying to sell to somebody else. And I think that it's important to just understand, that's like, it's okay.
Those are great advice. And then Judah here asks, what's your most successful marketing strategy? This is for both Megan and Michelle.
I'm going to say email marketing. So cultivating a list of people in your network that will listen to you regularly, talk about things and open your emails is huge. I started with my family and friends. and it grew from there.
How about for you, Michelle?
I think mine has probably been through Instagram, maybe. Just, posting regularly and just trying to get my products out there in that, organic way.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, your story. Both of these are storytelling and like connecting, like communicating to your customer. How do you get customer emails? I literally started with my family members and put them on a list, and then my friends, and then they told some people, and then I did retail shows, or I went on. Now I would, because of COVID, I would do Instagram and be like, sign up for my list, get 10% off. I would put it all over my Instagram stories and build my list that way now, or through Facebook. You can have a sign up thing in your Facebook business page. There's a bunch of ways you can start building a list.
That's good to know.
Can I ask a question about that? Because I think a lot of teens or young people maybe aren't on Facebook. Do you recommend that? Because older people, who may want to buy your product. So that's just a good point to bring up, if you would encourage people to get on Facebook for that reason.
Well, Instagram's the same. So
right, but like a lot of people, maybe 40 and up aren't necessarily opening up Instagram accounts. Do you know what I mean? Like, is it worth creating on both platforms, even though, yes, Instagram is owned by Facebook?
I think if you're going to focus on one, I would focus on Instagram right now, or Pinterest, honestly. Pinterest is a good one. If you want to focus on one thing, focus on one thing. But it doesn't have to be all of them also. And also think about your customer. If your customer is older, younger, whatever, like, where are they? Are they on TikTok, or are they on Snapchat or Pinterest? Different customers.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is great. It's been such a wonderful, wonderful program. And we've learned so much about how you both got into this business. And thank you for sharing all of your advice, tips, and tricks. And I'm so overwhelmed with knowledge right now. I think I want to start my own business. Let me see. I'll take one last question here from Rania. She asked, do you have any tips if you're going to sell more than one thing on your business? Or one thing? Or because I remember, Megan, you said you to come up with like at least 10 things.
Well, like a collection. If you're going to sell jewelry, sell different jewelry items. If you're going to sell lifestyle, sell candles, jewelry item, pillows, scarf. I don't know. Think about a collection that's cohesive, that tells a story. How many objects that is different, I guess.
To kind of follow up on what Megan said, is like, you might also consider, your customer, and like, if they wanted to buy, say, a card of Mount Hood, they might also want to buy a map of that area, or, other things related to the Pacific Northwest. So kind of, having a theme that somebody that likes one thing might like more of that thing, is one way to do it.
That's great advice. Ronnie, I hope that really helps. Oh, good, it did. Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and we'll conclude our program for today. I know we're 5 minutes over, but I just want to take this time to thank Megan and Michelle for being with us today and for sharing all of your knowledge with us on how to start a small business, just like you both have. And we wish you all the best and many success. Okay,
Thank you.
and
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, and if anybody has any more questions for Jessica and myself, please feel free to email us. We did attach the survey for you guys down below, so make sure to please fill that out. It'll help us so much, so that way we could decide what to do for our next program. So for next week, our topic for Career Day is going to be architecture. So if you're interested in learning about architecture, buildings, how to build big buildings or Olympic stadiums, or even houses, homes, anything like that, please do come to our program next Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Ooh, yes. So I know LEPL, Kathy here asked, can you tell us which library has a small business class? I know they just had one recently. Don't know which library, but I did attach the link to our small businesses. Let me go here to jobs and money. I'll go ahead and I'll send that over to you right now. I saw one for, I saw a cursor here. Let me put it in real quick. Okay. There's LPL had a free workshop. I think they had one recently. Oh, right now, West Valley Regional Library, they're going to have a careers in sustainability and green jobs. So this one is going to be on July 23rd, which is tomorrow at 4 p.m. As far as classes, I don't see any updated classes right now. I know LA County had one recently. County Small Business class. They had a small business workshop maybe last month, but they're partnered with the LA County Department of Consumer and Business Affairs. So we can, let me go ahead and attach this for you so you can click on the link and see when they're gonna offer their next business class.
There's also, through our website, you guys can access lynda.com for free if you have a library card, and there are a lot of tutorials and probably business related classes on there too. So let me link to our website. It's under collections and resources.
Oh yeah.
And you can scroll down, check for the letter L, and lynda.com is on there.
Right here under small businesses for jobs and money, they have all the resources available for you as well. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom, it has all the databases that you can study and free courses. All you need is a library card. And if you don't have a library card, you can apply for one today on our website. It's free. Yeah. We have Gale Books, ProQuest, Gale Business Plan Builder, Universal Class. Yeah, everything. Lynda.com is a great resource as well. All right, any other questions we can help answer? Oh yeah, the one tomorrow at 4 is virtual. And I believe it's, if you click on it, it says it's gonna be an Instagram Live. You just have to follow West Valley LAPL on Instagram. All right, Ronnie, I hope you feel, confident, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us anytime. Anybody here, you can feel free to reach out to us and we'll be happy to answer that. We're gonna go ahead and conclude the program. Again, thank you for coming today. We hope to see you next week on architecture. We're gonna have 3 amazing guest speakers for you. Okay, Jessica and I will hang out here for a little bit, so that way, if there's anything we can assist you with, please let us know. I'm going to say bye to everybody and wish you all a safe and happy week. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you again. Check out the
Bye.
website.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.